To understand the God of Magick is to understand the soul. Because what is magic? Magic is manifesting aspects of the soul into conscious reality. It is bringing forth your subconscious to alter the consciousness of others. And to alter consciousness is to alter reality, for consciousness is reality. For many thousands of years, human beings had a better grasp on the other world than we do today, the world of the subconscious. We had the shaman, the druid, the Norse satyr, who could see beyond conscious reality into the other world. Thus, the two worlds were practically one, making it difficult to tell when one began and the other ended. But here in the West, we have severed that connection. It's now believe or not believe. To believe is lying to yourself. To not believe is to close your eyes. The truth, though, is found in acceptance. Acceptance that consciousness and reality are one. All aspects of consciousness, including the subconscious. And when we ignore the subconscious, especially the dark side, that's when the trouble begins. Thus, the God of Magick, no matter what mask he may wear, is the mediator, the psychopomp, the guide between the realms. Within the traditions of the West, the history of magic begins in Egypt, and with the god Thoth. Thoth is the Egyptian god of not only magic, but also the moon, writing, wisdom, science, and is considered the inventor of the hieroglyphs. He was one of the most important gods of ancient Egypt, said to be self-created or born of the seed of Horus from the forehead of Set. Thus, he represented order and chaos respectively, a god of equilibrium. Thoth presided over the judgment of the dead, along with Osiris in the Hall of the Truth. Those souls who feared they might not pass through the judgment safely were encouraged to call upon him for assistance. As the lunar god, Thoth is linked to astronomy. The moon enabled the ancient Egyptians to measure time by its phases, central to the organization and timing of both civil and religious ceremonies, rituals, and events. And his association with the mysteries of astrology and astronomy resulted in his position as the God of Magick. It was believed that Thoth had created a great library of scrolls containing all of his knowledge, including his magical spells. The formulas contained within his scrolls were said to be so powerful that they could command all the forces of nature, even able to subdue the very gods themselves. An example of his magical powers can be seen in the myth where Horus lost his left eye in his war with Set, who tore the eye into 6 pieces. Utilizing his magic, Thoth was able to reassemble the eye and return it to Horus, who gave it to his murdered father Osiris, thus bringing him back to life. Over time, Thoth gained prominence as the knowledge of the ancient Egyptians increased and was therefore seen as the god of wisdom. Hermes, messenger of the gods, son of Zeus, is regarded as the divine trickster, he who outwits the gods either for the good of humankind or for his own personal amusement. It is said he was born in a cave on a mountain in Arcadia, conceived and born within the course of one day. Hermes was known to be quick and cunning, with the ability to freely move between the mortal and divine realms. One of his functions was to conduct souls to the god Hades. Besides Hades and Persephone, Hermes was the only one allowed to leave the underworld without consequence. The origins of Hermes is unclear, some believing he stemmed from a pre-Hellenic Mesopotamian snake god, a god who served as mediator between humans and the divine. According to one theory that has received considerable acceptance amongst scholars, Hermes originated as a form of the god Pan, but over time became known as the father of that god. Others believe he was based on the Thoth archetype. This fusion of attributes between Hermes and Thoth developed after the time of Homer amongst the Greeks and later the Romans, but more on that later. The cult of Hermes was established in Greece in remote regions, likely making him originally a god of nature, farmers, and shepherds. It's also possible that from the very beginning, with his ability to move amongst other planes of existence, a mediator between the worlds of the visible and invisible, he was a shamanic deity linked to divination, magic, sacrifice, and initiation. Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes the thrice great, cast a huge shadow over Western esoteric traditions. Some sources say that the nickname Trismegistus comes from the fact he was the greatest priest, philosopher, and king. And as a king of Egypt, was the first great intellectual to communicate celestial and divine knowledge to humankind by writing. There are even theories that state this Hermes was the actual grandson of the god Hermes. But no one knows for sure whether he is based on a real person or not. Most believe him to be a syncretism of Thoth and Hermes in Hellenistic Egypt. This fusion seems inevitable since both were gods of writing and magic in their respective cultures. And both were psychopomps, guiding one not only to the afterlife, but in a psychological perspective to deeper aspects of the psyche. Hermes was said to have written thousands of scrolls of high intellectual standing, reputed to be of immense antiquity. Clement of Alexandria believed that the Egyptians had 42 sacred writings by Hermes, encompassing all the training of Egyptian priests. It's said his Hermetic philosophy rationalized religious cult practices and offered the adept a method of personal ascension from the constraints of physical being. Strangely, though, many Christian writers considered Hermes to be a great pagan prophet, never doubting his existence. Islamic theologians also identified him as a prophet and a direct ancestor of Muhammad. During the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, his writings were popular among alchemists. The truth is, many philosophers and learned men of that time were influenced by Renaissance Hermeticism. In the 17th century, the brilliant Sir Isaac Newton even translated Hermes' book, The Emerald Tablet. The Hermetic tradition therefore refers to alchemy, magic, astrology, and related subjects. The texts are usually distinguished in two categories, the philosophical and technical Hermetica. The former deals mainly with the issues of philosophy, and the latter with magic, potions, and alchemy. Whether an actual person, syncretistic being, or god, the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus have had a huge influence on Western esotericism, theology, philosophy, alchemy, astrology, in a sense, pretty much all branches of what we now know as modern occultism and beyond. The Roman god Mercury is a copy of the Greek Hermes and did not evolve from a local deity, though speculations have been made that he might be linked to a much older Etruscan god. The Romans made some effort to welcome Mercury, Hermes, and include him in their legends. The most detailed of them being that in which Mercury fell in love with a nymph called Laura or Larunda, and their children were the Lares, extremely important household deities. And in some sources, Mercury is depicted as being nothing more than Jupiter's servant. In the city of Rome, Mercury's temple was located close to the Circus Maximus, outside the city's sacred inner walls, maybe indicating that his cult, if not the god himself, was a foreign one. Now, as the empire expanded into Germania, the Romans noted something very familiar about the Germanic tribesmen's central god. So familiar, the Roman historian Tacitus referred to that god as Mercury, even though the Germans did not worship Roman gods nor adhere to Roman culture. This was, in fact, Vodnaz. Vodnaz is the reconstructed Proto-Germanic name of a god known as Wotan in the Old High German, Godin in Lombardic, Woden in Old English, and Odin in Norse mythology. Vodnaz was a barbaric god of the wild hunt, storms, and of secret occult knowledge. He rose to prominence gradually, replacing Tiwaz, precursor to the Norse god Tyr, as the major deity in Germanic cultures. Vodnaz is associated with poetic or manic qualities, poetic fury, if you will, and is also the god of poets and seers. Now, look at these two gods. What the hell do they have in common, you may ask? Well, it turns out quite a bit. Maybe it's because they're both tricksters, they're psychopomps, they're mediums between this world and the afterlife, they're guardians of the dead, vanguards of wisdom, and, of course, they're both gods of magic. Which brings us to the form of Odinaz you're most likely familiar with. Odin. Odin of the Aesir, the ultimate seeker after sacred knowledge. He became a master of Seidr, a form of Norse magic generally associated with the feminine arts. And in Norse society, for a man to engage in such arts could bring scorn. Even Odin wasn't exempt from such charges of unmanliness and was taunted for adopting feminine traits. It's also said that Odin's superior poetic skills are due to him stealing the mead of the skalds or poets by sleeping with the giantess, Gunnluth, guardian of the mead. What happened was that after spending 3 nights with the giantess, she offered him 3 sips of mead. 3 sips only. This is where Odin's trickster side came out. Instead of abiding by her wishes, he chugged down the full horn before shape-shifting into an eagle and getting the hell out of there. But the ultimate expression of Odin's thirst for knowledge was when he sacrificed himself to himself upon Yggdrasil to obtain the wisdom of the runes. Now, at the center of the Norse cosmos stands the great tree Yggdrasil, which grows out of the well of Erd, a pool whose depths hold many of the most powerful forces and beings in the cosmos. Among these beings are the Norns, maidens who shape fate by carving runes into Yggdrasil's trunk. These powerful symbols then carry their intentions throughout the tree, affecting everything in the 9 worlds. Odin, being that ultimate seeker after knowledge and master of the occult, envied this power and was determined to know the runes. Since the runes do not reveal themselves to any but those who prove themselves worthy of fearful insights and abilities, Odin hung himself from a branch of Yggdrasil, pierced himself with his spear, and peered down into the shadowy waters below, calling for the runes, forbidding any of the other gods to help him. He lingered in this state for 9 days and nights. And on the end of the 9th night, he at last perceived shapes in the depths, the runes. The Norns had accepted his sacrifice, revealing to him not only the runic forms, but all the secrets that lie therein. Thus, Odin became more knowledgeable, more powerful. And he revealed the secret of the runes to humankind. Thus, this brings us full circle, back to Egypt, back to Thoth. For as Odin gifted us with the secret of the runes, Thoth revealed to the world the secrets of the hieroglyphs. Since the very beginning, magic and symbols have gone hand in hand. From the ancient cave drawings to hieroglyphs to sigils to runes to the alphabet, the written word, these have been the means to opening vistas between the spiritual and the material realms, the subjective and objective, the subconscious and conscious. Because these powerful symbols are able to alter consciousness, they're also able to alter physical reality itself. And no matter the mask the God of Magick wears, it was he who revealed these secrets of the symbols to us. Now, were all these gods of magic based upon a single divine being? No. But they do all share the same archetype, a force, a current, greater than you, something universal, buried deep in the human subconscious.